9 miles west of Morpeth in Northumberland lies Bolam Lake, but it didn't always look this pretty. It was once known as Bolam Bog, and the area was landscaped in 1816 to provide work for local people. Bolam Lake Country Park boasts lots of beautiful wildlife, from swans to roe deer to red squirrels, but something else is said to lurk here as well. Something less beautiful. Something dark. You see, there was never anything out of the ordinary about this place, and it wasn't particularly well known by those outside of the local area. But that changed in 2002, when Bolam Lake hit the headlines. Earlier in the year, a group of fishermen were out here in the evening with the hope of catching some pike, but instead they caught a glimpse of something completely different. They described seeing a creature some 8 foot in height, covered in thick hair with sharp teeth and glowing red eyes. Not wanting to stay and find out exactly what this thing was, the men ran for their lives, and not much more came of this, aside from a piece in the local media referring to the thing as the Geordie Yeti. Yet in the months that followed, more sightings started to be reported. Not just at dusk either, but during the daylight hours. The creature had been dubbed the Beast of Bolam Lake, and the media attention was growing, with this beast being spoken about throughout the country. Enter a man called Jonathan Downes, the director of the Devon-based Centre for Fortean Zoology, an organisation dedicated to cryptozoology using scientific methods. He brought his team to Northumberland in January 2003 for 5 days and nights in the hope of encountering the beast. The team started to interview eyewitnesses. One of these eyewitnesses stated that they'd seen the beast on 2 separate occasions, once in 1997 and once in 2000. This account would mean that the beast was here 5 years before the fishermen had their encounter, assuming this person was telling the truth. Joining Downes and his team from the southwest was Mike Hallowell from the Shields Daily Gazette and the Twilight Worlds Paranormal Research Society, based in South Shields. A team of 19 people in total came to Bolam Lake in the hope of seeing England's own version of Bigfoot. The team first used what they described as Native American tracking techniques to try and find out where it could be and lure it into a certain area. They also had a lot of expensive modern technology too, which strangely started to fail and malfunction at the start of the investigation. On day 2 though, things started to get even stranger. It was 5 PM and the light was fading. Thousands of nesting rooks in the trees were making a lot of noise and then fell silent all at once. At the same time, something big was moving around in the undergrowth. One team member got into his car and turned on the lights full beam in the direction of the noise. 8 people were here in this spot, and 5 of these, John Downes included, saw a huge humanoid creature springing from right to left and then disappear, before reappearing again and running back to where it had originally come from. There are also strange footprints found, which are pictured here, and the team reported that these prints were not from the same animal, meaning that there might be 2 or 3 of these creatures. At the end of the 5-day investigation, Downes said, "The expedition was a success beyond our wildest dreams. The most exciting thing was that 5 people had seen the beast at the same time. I was one of those people. What I saw was a dark, man-shaped object, approximately 7.5 feet tall. It had a barrel chest and thick, muscular arms and legs. I had a very clear sighting, but I saw no glowing eyes and wasn't able to tell whether or not it was covered in hair." Downes wrote in his autobiography, Monster Hunter, about what he had witnessed on that memorable night over a year after it had occurred. "What I saw was an incredibly flat and angular face, which appeared to be 2-dimensional. It is here that I have the greatest of difficulty in describing my encounter because what I saw was so far out of the normal run of human experiences that there simply are not adequate words to describe it. I will do my best, but even now, over a year after the expedition was done and dusted, I still find it almost impossible to describe with any semblance of a coherent description. As far as its shape is concerned, the nearest analogue that I've been able to come up with is the angular metallic running man, which can be found in certain levels of a computer game, Doom 2. However, this thing was matte black. It was so black, in fact, that it was a quasi-human piece of nothingness which had somehow become projected upon the Northumbrian landscape. It moved far too sharply and far too fast to be a living thing, at least in the ways that we know it. Again, I have to resort to another unwieldy and fairly inadequate analogue. It was as if somebody had filmed this humanoid-shaped piece of nothingness and then projected it back onto the landscape using the fast-forward facility on the video recorder. The whole experience lasted only a second, but it has been with me ever since. Now, there is another encounter with the Beast of Bolam Lake that was recorded by Rob Kirkup, and I retrieved this from his Illustrated Tales of Northumberland. Rob's a good writer and researcher, and he's clearly got good taste in the videos that he watches on YouTube as well. Rob spoke to a boy named Theo Wadey from Hexham in 2007. He spoke about his experience in the summer of 1999. He said that him and his brother James went for a walk after their picnic, and ignoring their mother's calls not to go too far, they strayed off the beaten path, and suddenly the whole place went silent, with all the birds flying away, as if frightened by something. There was a subtle change of light, and the place went noticeably darker. The two boys saw a shadow ahead, resting against a tree. The figure was very tall, and seemed to be giving off a menacing presence. Then the light fell onto him better, or perhaps he moved forward, but his face was not human. It looked like an ape or gorilla, or a pug dog with a squashed up face. He was covered in dark hair, and his eyes were glowing. He was breathing very heavily. The two boys turned and ran as if their lives depended on it. Another encounter was reported in 2003 by a woman named Naomi. She took her 14-year-old son David out to Bolam Lake for the day, and they both witnessed the creature from the car park, watching them from the nearby trees. Naomi described the creature as a huge black figure, like an enormous shadow, only dark and solid. I was able to find a number of other sightings reported from around this same time period, and they largely report seeing the exact same thing, a tall creature covered in hair that appears at first to be a shadow. But what exactly is this thing? And is it real? There are a number of theories. The first is that this was an ape of some kind that escaped from a local zoo. But this can easily be discounted due to the fact that no apes were reported missing from any zoos, and the description of this monster does not resemble an ape in any way. The second is that this creature is an unknown hominid species that had survived for countless millennia in Northumberland without being discovered, only popping up in the early 2000s. A theory that probably doesn't even merit discussion. Perhaps it would in a place as vast as North America, but not here. So let's say this isn't a mammal, a flesh and blood creature. Let's say it doesn't need to rely on a food source. Is there a possibility that this could be something supernatural? The third theory is that this creature might be something paranormal, something otherworldly. Directly next to Bolam Lake is the Iron Age settlement of Slate Hill, and the theory is that these structures are in some way portals or homes to otherworldly creatures. This isn't some new age idea from the internet, but it's a long-established belief in folklore from the British Isles and further afield. Burial mounds, forts, stone circles have long been associated with creatures and spirits and fairies, most famously in Ireland with their 30 to 40,000 or so fairy mounds across the country. To this end, could the Beast of Bolam Lake have some association to the Slate Hill Fort? Is it some kind of guardian or land spirit that made an appearance in the early 2000s and has since vanished? Or was this all just rumour and a big hoax? We'll likely never know, so I'll let you be the judge of what this creature might be. As always though, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed, please do give this video a like and a share. It's my goal to travel across Britain and, on occasion, other parts of the world, and document these legends and pieces of local folklore, sharing with you exactly where they occurred. My patrons, you can see on screen right now, are a massive blessing in helping me to achieve this, as it is a costly business. If you'd be interested in supporting my work, you can do so via becoming a supporter on Patreon or with a one-time donation. And finally, if you do fancy visiting Bolam Lake, then it is a lovely day out. There's a comfy little cafe that does good food and sells some local craft items. In any case, I will see you all in the next video.